I've had enough of actual plays. I'm not doing them anymore. And now, if that's fine by you, or you're not interested in the rant, then enjoy the rest of your day. But for everyone else, context. I'm not going to go into great detail about what an actual play is, because I think everyone in the space knows by now what they are, but for those who don't, it involves a group of people who record or stream themselves playing a tabletop role-playing game and release it onto YouTube, Twitch, and all the various podcast streaming sites like Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, etc. and so forth. I got into the world of Darkness via V5 in the middle of 2019. I was inspired by seeing the various vampire actual players online, particularly ATL by Night, Chicago by Night by Near Dark, and BG by Night, which stands for Bowling Green, which is a town in Kentucky, and of course LA by Night. I love the event this year in Vampire, and I wanted to spin my own tales. I used the 2020 World of Darkness Family Holiday event to make my storyteller debut, running a Victorian Age V5 one-shot, which turned out to be one of the more popular actual plays for the event. The players, consisting of half the ATL by Night crew and Faye the Pagan, friend and ST of BG by Night, were all surprised to discover this was my first rodeo, so to speak. I had put a lot of effort in one's research for the setting, watching various documentaries, reading books, and of course, the Victorian Age vampire source book, so knowing all of that paid off gave a huge boost to my confidence. I would appear as a player in a couple of small one-shots and chronicles after that, but it did not take long for me to work out I actually preferred running games to playing properly. I love being the self-appointed forever GM and watching my players, who are usually my friends and acquaintances, have fun and interact with the few tools I'd give them to weave their own stories. I would notice and observe that the nature of actual plays was changing, how some were now presenting themselves as audio dramas with minimal play, and folks began treating Twitch streams far more seriously. Now, the shift in this attitude actually annoyed me, as it became increasingly hard to find actual plays that felt like people actually playing, and thus difficult to recommend for people who wanted to learn how to play by watching others play. So, as I did with the Law by Night podcast proper, I decided to try and fill in a gap in the market, as the expression goes. On the 19th of December 2021, I aired an announcement for Law by Night Productions, which aims to be wholesome, chillaxed fun with none of the pretentious professional bollocks, i.e. friends and acquaintances sitting round their PC screens playing games. In podcast form, I could make them sound professional and apply fancy effects and voice filters if needed, but it would always be player-friendly whilst maintaining those interesting and engaging narratives from an eclectic cast of culturally and racially diverse folks who, more often than not, were queer as fuck. For a short time, this went well. Viewers were engaging with what we had produced, and there would be lots of buzz and excitement running up to and on the game night itself. 2022 was an active year for me in that regard, as I was asked by various groups to run games for them on multiple occasions, and yet, despite all this, I never truly felt satisfied, because I did not feel the hard work both I and the players put in reflected the views on YouTube and Twitch. I'm of course really happy how each of these sessions went, and seeing the players enjoy themselves, for that is the main focus after all is me as a storyteller, but it would be nice if the work we did was celebrated more. I also began to unconsciously feel pressure to keep up the pace, like I needed to prove myself, like to prove my relevance in the tabletop role-playing game space, even though I had done so already many times over. Because I have a large following with a loud voice, not doing actual plays, frequently that is, I didn't feel I was good enough, that my presence meant nothing. I feel this more so today, particularly with certain characters actively and sneakily spreading slander whose names I shan't mention to avoid any more drama, like a bunch of petulant, unwanted and unloved high schoolers. What I really wanted was recognition from my peers that I was doing a good job, more invites to run games for them and feel part of the in-crowd. It's a feeling I've always felt that's evolved with time, which just comes part and parcel in being autistic. It doesn't help that on the few occasions that I am praised and my contemporaries do extend invitations to run games for them sometime just never happens, or rarely happens, and unless I do all the legwork, which I don't think is really fair, especially when a large portion of these people have used me to boost or kickstart their own careers as an actual play performer. And for the record, I do not believe that most of these are intentional, but there are some folks, individuals that I refuse to name, who have used me and my platforms for their own personal clout. But the real first gut punch that made me question the point of doing actual plays was when I ran my Wraith the Oblivion one-shot, a special delivery. Wraith is the World of Darkness game I see most people claim they wish to play but never get around to play for many reasons, but the biggest one I saw from people is that it is complicated to play. Yes, it's got some challenges, but I have always stood by the fact it's actually a lot easier to run than most people make out, and I decided to prove a point. I would run Wraith for 3 friends, none of which have ever played the game before at that point. I set it in the Great War period and gave it a unique theme and dedicated a lot of time to research as I did the Victorian Age one-shot. Unlike that one, I also put a lot of effort into the advertising and promotion of it, as my video editing and graphic design has improved quite a bit since then. Additionally, I upped my production of the podcast recording, applying a variety of processing effects to represent the shadows of each player, the ferryman, and spectres. I was prepared for that game not to do well in terms of views, I have to admit. Wraith is not very popular, I was not doing vampire lore, and my channel isn't an actual play channel, so I was shooting myself in the foot quite a few times. There would also be people, however, who wanted me to do more of these things, so that had always served as encouragement to carry on. However, I was not actually prepared for just how bad the statistics would actually be. Taking various factors into consideration, it is quite possibly one of the worst received things on my channel. Yes, I am happy with how the session went and how those players still talk about that game, particularly the moment when it all clicked for them, understanding what role-playing the Shadow was like. I will cherish those memories and those conversations to the day I die, but I also feel incredibly fucking frustrated that fuck all people will ever appreciate it. As you probably gathered, that really annoys and frustrates me, and it actually took a lot of motivation out of me doing actual plays. I ran V5 for a charity event late last year, 2022, at the moment of recording, which was bonkers from start to finish, but I found it a lot harder to commit myself to doing actual plays for many reasons, some of which I'd actually like to explore with you now. As I have touched upon already, the way actual plays are presented has changed dramatically over the last 4 years I have been present in the online TTRPG space. If your actual play doesn't look like the next Hollywood blockbuster film and you can't make those thumbnails stand out from the ever-growing competition, you can kiss your potential audience goodbye. No one is going to watch every live stream going on at the same time, so you're always going to be competing for views, even if you want your fellow creators to do well. The actual play scene is also bursting at the seams with content, most of which will remain buried under the better looking thumbnails and better standing productions with the more popular figures. Figures, I mean the actual performers. Whilst the way they are marketed is flashy and impressive to look at, many actual plays are still just people sitting at their desks on a cleverly hidden Zoom call. In order to stand out, you need to know graphic design, audio production, and video editing skills, not just to make the VOD, video on demand, look presentable, removing all the ums, ahs, and burps from the recording if you're doing a podcast format, but to make decent trailers. I'm not joking, I'm not kidding about the Hollywood thing, by the way. There are some incredibly talented people that really go balls to the fucking walls of this stuff. TTRPG performers also need good people skills and, most importantly, marketing skills, which most people are incapable of doing effectively. You have to be aware what's going on in the scene and know how to present and brand yourself so people know it's you without looking at your face. It's fucking exhausting. Note that I just refer to them as TTRPG performers, not just players and GMs. Once upon a time, it was only the larger personalities and influencers you would expect to get paid by the bigwig companies to promote material, but now it is seemingly everyone and their fucking mother. TTRPG actual play groups and events thrive on sponsorships and the kind of donations that their 40 viewers per stream, vor0, donate in-game and monthly, and that is only if you are popular. Though, to say they thrive off the playing and running TTRPGs is far too nice, despite the glitz and glamour social media likes to present to us and how amazing I just made it all sound. Most people can't survive off their TTRPG performances and content alone. Many players and STs get paid for running and playing in actual plays. Some groups have production teams and other managerial roles pulling the strings from behind, though this is a very small minority. There's also been discussion in the last few months on whether they should be deemed as actors and should be part of regular actors guilds and or should establish their own. Now, that is a particularly big can of worms I've just opened up, but I'm just going to ignore that one because it's not relevant to the rant I'm having here. My point is that the oversaturated actual play space, or industry I suppose, is still incredibly niche and moving in directions I do not feel comfortable chasing. Audience wanted these higher productions now, and every performer's got an obscene level of politics running around and stepping over and on each other, and I cannot or will not deliver and chase after said clout chasing. I have also noticed how people run Session Zero and address consent in gaming has changed to where I feel the TTRPG space has become paranoid to the point of dictatorship. For clarification, I do believe that the use of some form of safety tools is very important. I did a whole episode on my podcast on this matter. Episode 26, Consent in Gaming, which you can find in the description below, a point I feel exasperated to make on pure principle. Certain groups and Twitter dramas have started because the use of safety tools is not being implemented to the satisfaction of said group of individuals. The usual not using them at all conversations do appear once every 2 months, but that is not what I mean here. We have now gone too far the other way. It is not just good enough to hold Session Zero and discuss what works for you, but you now must include as many safety tools as humanly possible to satisfy the needs of an audience and the rest of your peers. A strange scenario that I encountered twice this year was with players who would not make their character sheet outside of Session Zero because that was the correct way of doing that. It wasn't something I discussed or was made aware of, it was just something I was supposed to know, and I felt really fucking stupid for not knowing this about them. Another player of a different actual play that would end up getting cancelled insisted that I give them their own Session Zero, on top of the one that was trying to be planned. I obviously declined this, for my time was incredibly limited, but some people demand too much of Session Zero because of online dramas have scared the absolute shit out of people, bestowing them with catatonic fear of being cancelled or being branded as a bad person due to harmful word of mouth, regardless to whether it is warranted or not. It should not be stressful setting up a Session Zero, but as time has gone on, I have felt more anxious running the most vanilla of horror experiences in case I miss out a vague trauma point or do not employ a safety tool to the satisfaction of the masses, both again my peers, the audience and the players. Again, I do not want to cause trauma for anyone, but it's becoming increasingly more difficult to work out where the boundaries and lines are. I also just find it incredibly stressful organising people across several time zones. In case you're not aware, I'm British innit, and the TTRPG space is predominantly American, so there is always a good 5 to 6 hours apart. This, combined with the previous point, has really put me on edge. I asked 2 regulars of my actual plays recently if they were available on a certain day to do a one-shot, and they both couldn't for totally valid reasons. The denial of my application, however, resulted in me having a fucking panic attack. It's dumb and illogical, and I hate that this happened, but emotions are sometimes, though I shouldn't be feeling this overwhelmed just organising a game, something that's actually meant to be fun. The second and final gut punch, however, would happen earlier this year when I was running my 10,000 YouTube subscriber charity livestream. It was the first time in a while that I hosted an actual play on my channel, and I wanted to make the special occasion a big one. One of my players managed the tech side of things, and another helped me find other players. I ran the game, and fuck all people donated to the GoFundMe page. Also, barely anyone watched the game itself. Now, I do not blame any of my viewers or question why they did this, and it did not interest them. Trust me, I know exactly why, but you can probably understand the deflating feeling I would have after literal years of planning and hype, internal hype. The end result was as engaging as a slap in the face by a damp cloth. With the most recent actual play, The World Below one-shot, I didn't care about any of the production or whether it even looked good. I booted up Discord, recorded the group call via OBS, cut out the awkward moments and when Rika's camera fucking froze, and I uploaded it to YouTube. I had more fun running that than any of the actual plays of mine to date, just because it felt organic and I could focus on having fun again. I ran a V5 one-shot at my local game store as part of Free RPG Day this year, and everyone had a blast. It was the very first time I actually ran a game that wasn't being recorded as content for my channel or somebody else's, but it was just a bunch of nerds having fun playing Vampire. Yeah, I did a vlog for that, but that was more a fun challenge and archive of the process for me to do, so I didn't actually care about the numbers for that one as much. I will also note that both these games didn't have a formal session 0, but a quick 5 to 10 minute chat about what the game intended and checking to see if there was anything folks didn't want to be brought up to minimise potential issues during the game. You may also know that I'm going to run some Chicago by Night stuff for some friends for V5, which again is not an actual play, just the 4 of us enjoying the game as originally intended, in the privacy of our own homes and tables, and I have not been so excited to run a game as this one ever. Yeah, I'm going to do some recap vlogs for it, because that is only because I'm excited and want to tell people about it, and honestly, I don't have a lot of friends who would give a fuck. My subscribers do, as would any other VTM nerd, so that will do rather nicely. Now, sitting down to write, present, and record this is probably one of the hardest things I have done as part of the Lore by Night brand to date, because it involves me admitting that I was wrong and that I was not as popular as I felt I was, or rather, not in the way that I hope I would develop the brand. It shows weakness in my failings, but also strength in my honesty. The vast majority of my subscribers will not listen to this, and some of them have no fucking clue what I'm going on about here, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this. No one cares. No one cares. Neither do I. I'm not enjoying trying to make actual plays work on the channel, so I'm not going to push myself on them anymore. I still very much want to do the solo stuff, but this year has been a fucking mess, and I have had no time to probably sit down and do that. And I'm not doing that for anyone else other than myself, but I know people do enjoy solo actual plays, so do whatever the fuck you want with that info. Now, if I do come up with an idea for an actual play, or I get asked to run something, or I get sponsored to do something, then it happens. If not, that's fine. I really have lost interest in doing it, and as the fucking thumbnail says, I'm burnt out. So, in short, yeah, I'm burnt out and doing actual plays, and we'll carry on making cool guides, lore dives, and the rest of the usual crap I churn out, and who knows, maybe a special or a walk and talk vlog here. If you made it this far, you're truly wonderful. Until next time, farewell.